Next is the tree.
Hello again, welcome back. Psychic Eric here. And in this video, we're going to be sharing some antique mall finds that I found probably a little over a month ago now, out in western Nebraska, about two and a half hours away from me, both in Grand Island and then Hastings, Nebraska. Sometimes I go out there about twice a year, spring and fall seasons usually. Sometimes Kearney, Nebraska, and then sort of the small towns out west. Never know what you're going to find out there. Love kind of getting your dusty fingers, your crate digging, literally out in the wild. So picked up on some really cool scores here. We're going to dive into them. But then also, I think we'll also jump into some VCLT, both from Dom and Crazy Jimmy's vinyl. And a majority of these finds, for you 45 collectors, gonna have some fun with these titles. Definitely some keepers in here. And one was actually a double that I ordered probably about a year ago now online that I thrifted. And I'm going to share some photos as well, how I found them. So Grand Island, I found a LP and a single there. And unfortunately I can't show the LP because I actually shipped it off to someone in the community. Won't say who, but you'll figure it out soon enough. But I'll just say the name of it. So it's the Scruggs Brothers. I think it's the self-titled second album on Vanguard. They had a couple LPs, so it's actually Earl Scruggs, his sons. They had a couple LPs on Vanguard. It's kind of your basic, straightforward country rock kind of sound with some folk rock leanings and, of course, that whiny pedal steel that we all love, and maybe a little Byrds influence in there as well. It's got some sort of that electric country rock style, especially on that second track was really good. I kind of wish I ripped it before I sent it off because I didn't see it on YouTube. But it was a very clean disc, and I just figured, might just send it off. You could find it for like $5-10 all day. I'm actually, looking for the debut, which I do not own. Have never seen it out in the wild ever. So the Antique Mall downtown, it's like in the historical downtown area in Grand Island. It's actually the same place I thrifted John Fred Houston record that we talked about in the Ghost Riders video. You just never know what you're going to find in there. It always seems like there's always something interesting to dig in there, even if the records are in poor shape. I even found some like German titles in there, like Eloy and some other bands. But anyways, only came out with one other single in there. And this is kind of an interesting pick. So this is a band called The Trend, the Fontana label. You can see it's kind of discolored there. Boyfriends and Girlfriends, the A side. And then the standout track on the B side, Shot on Sight. So this is actually pre-Giles, Giles, and Fripp, otherwise known as King Crimson. This has got the Giles brothers, Michael and Peter Giles, both in the rhythm section, bass and drums, and then a couple other members. I think the other members went on to another phase of the group called The Brain. And I forget what they started out as. I think it was like the Trendsetters Limited. Yeah, nice, cool promo copy. It's kind of cool. This got a U.S. release, considering it was originally on the Page One label out of England. And this is very much of the time period, 1966. Sort of got that mod-influenced pop rock sound going on, with a little bit of brass. I think there's like a trumpet in there or trombone. But very hip, very swinging London, very pre-Carnaby Street magic happening on there. And I think this goes for a little bit of money. So just to see a promo on Fontana, I just love the Fontana label. And then I think that leads us to going to Hastings. So there's an antique mall down there. In the past, I probably only picked up maybe, 4 to 5 titles in the past. Nothing groundbreaking. I think I found like Strawberry Alarm Clocks, Wake Up It's Tomorrow for $10, and then, have to scoop it up at that price. And then I think I found that Rusty Evans solo album, that Marcus record. So I found some pretty decent stuff for cheap. And of course, being an antique mall, there's no way you can get away with budget-friendly prices in every vendor, right? you're always going to stumble across some overpriced, Santana, Jefferson Airplane kind of stuff. Your typical. But boy, these slip through the cracks, I guess, man. I mean, it's funny because I found these at all different vendors too. Most of these, especially this first one, was really like mind-boggling, and was definitely the score of the whole trip. It just made the whole trip worth going just for this one single. And I even posted about this in the community posts you may have witnessed. It's on the Banger label, Shortening Bread by the Readymen. And then the B-side, Surfer Blues. How the hell this ever landed here in Nebraska this clean for its age is a mystery. It might have like a few scuffs, and I haven't really cleaned this. It's got some dust marks, obviously, but ever since putting it in a new sleeve, I hadn't cleaned it off yet. But pretty clean disc. It's amazing. And just go ahead and check out the Discogs median on this. 400 clams. And then like someone paid like $1,000 for it on the highest end. Wow. And I'll show a photo how I found it for $2. How can you beat that? And I don't know how this slipped through the cracks. I mean, and some other casual titles like Steely Dan or the Eagles 45s are about the same price. They kind of range between like $2 and $5, depending on what they were. But they obviously didn't know what they had here. And I think I read up like maybe 100 were pressed of this, 100 to 200 copies pressed. Damn, dude. This is a Minnesota-based group from the Twin Cities area. And I think they also toured with, or kind of rubbed shoulders with, the Trashmen. They were kind of from the same region, doing some of that frat rock, sort of garage surf kind of stuff. And yeah, Shortening Bread is like a traditional blues track that a lot of people covered. And the first time you hear it, man, that's like the first punk rock song. Very heavy for its time. I think it's like, what year? 64, around there? Yeah, definitely in the same ballpark as some of those other early garage singles like, what is it, Do the Hammerlock, that 45. That's also notorious for having the Cramps sort of do their own take on Shortening Bread, sort of doing their interpretation of the track. It's very savage, very ramped up, and full of just teen angst. Just really kicks ass. And so the B-side basically is just an instrumental track. It's got that kind of wet slapback reverb that we all love, and yeah, this is definitely a keeper for sure. Just to stumble across something like that. And then this is the one I was talking about, so now I have a double of this one. Probably Colosseum's only track you need to know about, The Kettle. Wow. To find a promo copy of this, and then plenty hard luck. As I stated before, not too big on their LPs a whole lot. I mean, they got a decent jazz rock kind of style, but I think some other bands do it way better. But The Kettle is just such a banger, hard rocking track. I've even covered it on guitar and did my own cover variation, which I have not shared yet. I think it's on my old laptop, so I got to go dig that out somewhere sometime. But it's probably probably plays VG. It's got some scuffing, but this is how I found it actually. No sleeve, and it was buried in like one of those, green totes that you always see. And then I found this one with it too. Another promo, Apache 69 with Eyes of Blue. Of course, this is like, got some members of pre-Gentle Giant. And then this is actually the non-LP track here, Q3. Both instrumentals. And I guess Apache 69 was only released on the US press on LP, and it was never on the UK pressing for some reason. I guess they were trying to just have a little bit of a novelty hit here in the States or something. But of course, the Shadows version of Apache, only done in a more like progadelic, sort of a harder edged Hammond organ, electric guitar led kind of cover. And it was featured on their second and final, well, guess they had a third LP, but under Eyes of Blue, their in Fields of Ardeth, their final LP. So yeah, just crazy to find this. And then we got a few more singles here. So this is a cool one. Was unaware of this one till I looked it up. And this has got Frank Zappa on guitar, and this has got quite a heavy sound for its time as well. How do you pronounce this? Grunion Run. As you can see, the writer of the track is Frank Zappa. I don't know why this camera does not focus when I put it up close, but trust me, it's Frank Zappa as the writer. And this was actually recorded in his studio, I guess he required at the time. This is the group The Persuaders, and this is also a promo copy on the original Sound label. And then you got Tijuana Surf on the back. You know, kind of your typical surf rock kind of style. But some, like I said, some pretty nice, I think there's like a fuzz box on that track with Zappa. It's got the original company sleeve. Got a Skagway price tag there. It's all together, so. And of course, I think this was also like probably, I don't know, probably a couple bucks. I think in total, I probably spent like 12 bucks in total at this mall. And then, of course, this is one of the more typical singles you'll find, but I just decided to pick it up because I did not have this one. That's the Seeds, Can't Seem to Make You Mine, GNP Crescendo, and then it's got the B-side, I Tell Myself, and this is actually from A Web of Sound. So you got from their new LP and then the previous LP, Can't Seem to Make You Mine. Maybe they were recorded around the same time, I'm not sure, but you know, not a near mint copy, but it's pretty nice compared to, you know, the typical condition you see these in, all battered up. Yeah, you see a lot of Seeds 45s more than the LPs anyway. I always find their 45s out here in like the rural Nebraska area, so they definitely sold some copies back in the day. And then I think this was more like a kind of a pop soul early 60s single here, Billy Gales, Dreaming of You. I just, you know, I always have an eye for what to look out for. You know, you always have to kind of look out for that bare bones, you know, 2-barred looking label there, just how primitive it looks. You got a track called I'm Hurting. I just remember listening to this once, and yeah, it was kind of more of like a, I don't know. I can't tell you where he's from, but I just know it's sort of like a, not Northern Soul, but it's more just kind of soulful single on the Shock Records label. And goes for a little bit online, so I just picked it up. Then this final 45 I picked up, this is one where it's a pretty well-known track. Are these guys the original version of this track? I'm not really sure, but it's Do You Love Me by the Contours. I know the Sonics famously covered this track as well. And then Move Mr. Man. Reason I picked this up was just because it was a German copy here on the CBS label. I guess it goes for a little bit of money online. It comes with the picture sleeve as well. I forgot to mention the Ready Men single comes with the picture sleeve too, but oh man, it would have upped the value even more if I had it with that picture sleeve. I guess those are pretty hard to come by. Could always make a replica or scan a copy, scan a replica of it. Okay, and then this final pickup, this was actually found near the Colosseum and the Eyes of Blue. Had a bunch of LPs in this section and was not aware of this one when I picked it up. Wood, Brass, and Steel. What a crazy album art that is. So looking at this, you know, what do you think this could be? Maybe some cruise ship lounge music? It's kind of my first thought when I looked at that. I'm like, is this like a cruise ship band doing some like calypso music or something? This was way better than I expected. So I only listened to this once, but really nice copy here. I think this came out in '76. Is that right? Yeah, Turbo Records. Starts out with a track called Funkanova. That tells you anything. The way I describe this, it's very like high life, spacious, funk disco music. I don't know if disco is the right term, but it's got a very cosmic, high life, silvery synth, but yet very groovy and funky at the same time kind of style working with it. And this might be a keeper, man, just for fun. This is a fun listen. Not my typical listen, but I had a lot of fun with this. What was the one track I really enjoyed? I forget what title it was, but it's on YouTube. It's like the most viewed track when you look this up. It's got some, I would imagine this has got some, perhaps some samples for some hip hop artists out there. Something to dig into at least. Definitely of its time period. Maybe some cocaine in these sessions, you know, some booger sugar. But I loved it. I love what's going on there. So okay, onto the VCLT stuff that just got kind of passed along to me. I wasn't really asking for this one, but very, very much thankful for this Dom. He had mentioned in his video that he wasn't sure if it was going to be a keeper, and by all means, I'll scoop this up and see if it works its magic on me. So he passed this my way. This is Hartford. What is it? Hartford Baby Grand. This is a Canadian only release on the Columbia 2i label, or Columbia 360, right? Yeah. Gatefold Unipack. And I had never heard of this. This is one of those like super obscure major labels that nobody's talking about. Right up my alley. He knows me well. So my first impression, you know, I've gave this like a couple listens, 2 different nights back to back, and there's definitely like 2 or 3 pretty good moments, like Victorious. I think the other track was I've Seen the Light. I forget what the title's linking up to the track that I heard, but especially like the first track for sure was the standout. You know, you got some fuzz guitar a little bit, kind of buried in the mix, but very upbeat. I don't know who to compare these guys to. Definitely not the Collectors. You know, I'm trying to think of like Canadian groups that might sound like this, but nothing's really popping up into mind. There was a couple moments. I think it was the track Hey Mama. One of these tracks really reminded me of like Elton John, you know, some piano rock kind of thing going on. I'm like, no, what are you guys doing? Wasn't really getting down with that. Kind of like Dom, you know, I'm really interested in these sort of Columbia 360 titles that only was Canadian only release. Sort of like, I know there's some Vanguard titles like that as well that I'm kind of keeping an eye out for. You know, and some of them are on Epic as well, and you know, stuff that was only Canadian only. So I don't know if I'd really necessarily tag this as psych, but it's kind of coming from that ripple effect of the 60s, because I think this came out in like 1970. So it's got the right ideas in some moments, but I think they're just trying to pinpoint a style, trying to be a little diverse, and it just kind of falls flat or just not very memorable. But I'm still going to keep this for a while, and I think I'm just going to see what the turnout is later on. But thank you again, Dom, for the thought. And then this one too, I just listened to this, I think Sunday night. I'm still trying to get familiar with this guy's backstory a little bit. So Crazy Jimmy's Vinyl, if you guys don't know that channel, the guy's got a wealth of knowledge way beyond my pay grade. And he's into a lot of different styles, man. For one minute he's showing like 70s Bee Gees, and then the next moment he'll show like, you know, some German titles or Private Press stuff. You just never know with that man. And I like that. I really dig those channels that have a really broad spectrum of different outlooks. So this is one such case where I'm trying to kind of settle into this record a little bit yet. I think I spotted this maybe 10 or so years ago online when someone posted this. And this is Denny Lile. He had talked about this one recently, and I just remember his enthusiasm for it. I'm like, I have to save this to a playlist later and check it out. And so I only gave this pretty much a one-way run through, and I can tell you that this is probably going to be one that's going to warm up to me. I really enjoyed the middle section of this, Once More with Feeling, and then Love is on a Freight Train was kind of the apex for me on this. There were a couple moments where it was a little ragtimey. I think it was the track Oh Darlin'. starting off, and I was like, whoa, we're already going there, huh? So I think this was recorded around 72, came out in 73, somewhere around there. And I guess this guy had a lot of ambition to sort of make it out there in the world, and trying to get that contract. This is on the Bridges Records label, and it's kind of a funny, it's got his contract on the front image there. I'm actually looking for a record on this label. It's an artist called Dawson. Can You Feel It is the name of the album. I'm actually looking for that one. If you guys know or are aware of that one. It's got a red cover. But you got a lot of players on here. You got drums, fiddle, conga, steel guitar, dobro, bass, piano, some different vocals. So you got a pretty extensive lineup on here. And from what I can tell, what I've kind of gathered online looking this up, it sounds like he had a lot of high expectations to kind of make it as an artist. And I guess later on he would actually, sell some of his songs to different artists, including Waylon Jennings, who had like a top 10 hit that Denny Lile actually wrote. I forget the name of the track. I think it starts with an F, like Following or something like that. Well, anyways, they reissued this like years later with some bonus tracks, and then it included a DVD. I'd be interested in seeing the documentary and kind of get a little more in depth and seeing what his whole path was as an artist. Because it sounds like he died of alcoholism in the mid-90s, possibly due to depression, not making it as an artist. And I think he lived in his van, from what I understand. So kind of a tragic story, but sometimes those tragic stories really shine more light onto their music. And yeah, so like I said, Jimmy, I have to kind of absorb this one a little more. But I know he really gave this high praise, and I'm here to kind of do the same thing, trying to sell people on this. So yeah, let's get some fans out there. This is like a singer-songwriter, definitely leaning on a more country tone. Sort of a Nashville, because I think this guy's from Kentucky, but it's definitely kind of laced in that sort of, southern Nashville kind of approach. So yeah, I may have to report back on this, but thank you for sending this my way, Jimmy. So I think that's about it. So I think the next video might possibly be online finds. I'm actually waiting for one more in the mail. I thought I'd be here by now. We got 4 records I'm going to talk about there, and some of those go way back as well. Still playing catch up, yes. I'm still trying to catch up with everything. And yeah, as far as me making this video, Astral Yacht, it's on its way. It's gonna get there someday. I guess in other news, I've ordered mailers for it, getting ready to sell them off Bandcamp. So we're getting closer. I just told the label that I wanted probably 150 copies to start out to sell off on Bandcamp. And then once I get greenlit to add any more info, I'll for sure make a video and maybe even possibly make a short, however you guys want to see it, and give you all the finer details once the picture becomes more clearer to me. So I'm going to end it off on that note and dig into some of these titles if you haven't heard them. We shall see you soon.